talk about finding surface area. Yeah, I know we have a test tomorrow. That quiz that's on our agenda as an option today. I'll go ahead and give you a hint. There's some questions that are very similar, if not identical, to what's on your test. So I would make sure you take a look at that. So steps to find surface area. Yeah, I know I did this in another live session, but I want to kind of break it down maybe a little bit different to help you. So when you look at these 3D shapes, I know we were talking about making a net, and that's that shape that has all the pieces together. And it's great if you can do that. I want you to try to be able to do that. However, I really struggled with that as a student. But what helped me was I could look at this shape and see as a whole what shapes make it up. So when I look at this shape, I see that we have triangles and we have squares. So in the chat box, how many, well, not squares, but rectangles, how many triangles are in this shape? Type in the chat box. We have 2 triangles, that's correct. So I have 1 triangle, 2 triangles. How many rectangles do we have? We have 3 rectangles. 1, 2, 3. So yes, I could arrange these into a net. However, if that kind of confuses you of trying to figure out like, okay, where, how do I arrange them into a net? As long as you can come up with how many there are in this 3D shape, you can solve for surface area. What you need to realize is just because in the picture things look like they're the same size, it does not mean they are the same size. So we know what shapes make it up. We found how many shapes for each shape. We drew out or copied our shapes out. Now we got to label the measurements of each side. I think this is the number one mistake that I see. Is we have people that they just will find like the area of one rectangle and use it for all 3. But that's not going to always be the case. So we're going to label each one. So first I'm going to label this rectangle right here. So this rectangle is 8 by 5. So I'm going to write 8 because I know length times width for area times 5. So this is 8. And this is 5. Now I'm going to switch colors. I realize you don't always have that option if you're writing things down at home, but if you do, that helps me. So next we're going to talk about the shape that aligns right here. Down, across. This is our rectangle number 2. This one is going to be also 8. That long side right here is 8. And the side length here is 5. And I just noticed that this 4 got moved. Okay. So this is also 8 times 5. So yes, those 2 will have the same area. Then let's look at our last, and I'm going to use green. So the last rectangle I'm looking at is the one that has down here. And it goes this long way across and this way. So you have to look at each shape individually. And this one is 6 by 8. So it is a little bit different. So we have 6 by 8. how to turn those off. So 8 times 6. Alright, so we have labeled each of the measurements for our rectangle. Now we need to do our triangles. So we have 2 triangles. This one. This has a base of 6. And a height of 4. So whenever you see the little shape that makes this like half of a square, that is showing you the height of a triangle. So whenever you see that, the number that's near that is what you have to pay attention to. The height of our triangle is not 5. That's the side. We're looking at the height. So our height here is 4. That is going to be the same as over here. Because the triangles are ends, and they are going to be the same. So this is also 6 and 4. Now, all triangles will not be the same because sometimes if we're talking about a pyramid, the sides could be different. And we'll look at that on another slide soon. So we have 6 times 4. And one of the common mistakes I see is we forget a triangle is only half of a square or a rectangle. So you have to have that 1/2. And the 1/2 is of the entire 6 by 4. So 6 times 4 is 24. And half of that is 12. So the area of each of these triangles is 12. And I like to write it in the box and circle it because that helps me keep track of all my numbers. So now we have 8 times 5. Someone type in the chat box, what is 8 times 5? No, it is 40. And so the area of this rectangle is 40. Area of this one is also 8 times 5. 40. And then 8 times 6. What is 8 times 6? $48. Good job. So we have all of our shapes. We've labeled them. And then we found the area of each face. So each of these shapes is called a face. And we found the area of them. I have someone trying to get in. Let me see if I can get them in. All right. Okay. So we have our area of our triangles, area of our rectangles. Now we have to add them up. So if you all on your paper would add up the area of each of these shapes. So we have this one. When I put them here, I like to cross them out so I don't write a number twice or forget a number. Alright, and then I gotta add all of these up. In the chat box, whenever you get the answer, would you please type it in the chat box? I'll give you all a minute to work that out. So when we add up 40 plus 40, I see some people are getting their answers in. So I know 40 plus 40 is 80. That's another 48. And then I know 12 plus 12 is 24. And that kind of helps me. And then I know 8 plus 4 is 12.
I can see you.
8 plus 1 is 9, plus 4 more is 13, plus 2 more is 15. So our answer is 152 centimeters cubed. So the reason it is cubed is because we're talking about a 3D shape. When we're talking about the area, each of these was like 40 centimeters squared, 48 centimeters squared. But when we are talking about a hole and it's a 3D shape, it is going to be cubed. All right. So next we're going to come to another page. All right. So we're going to talk about finding the area of a cube. Again, we're going to break it up into each face. How many faces does a cube have? Type in the chat box. How many faces does a cube have? It is 6. So when I say face, the face of an object is like this part right in here. So this is the face. I put an X across the face, an X across this face. So you think about like a box. How many faces of a box or of a cube do you have? So here we can count 1, 2, 3, but we know there's also a bottom. So that's 4. There's a side over here, right, on our box. That's 5. And then there's the back, and that's 6. So there are 6 faces on a cube. A cube, if you see that word cube, you need to know that all of the sides are equal. So we have 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have our 6 faces. Each face has the same length in height and width. So, because I know that, cubes are pretty easy because it's 6 and 6. What is 6 times 6? Type in the chat box. Yes, 36. So we know we have 36. So each of these is going to be the same because they're all equal because it's a cube. The only time you can do it like this is when it's a cube. Now you could add these up individually or with a cube. And again, this is the only time you can do this is to $36. We can multiply it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times 6. So what is 36 times 6? 36 times 6. So I know that 6 times 6 is 36. And I'll bring my 3 up to here. All right. I know that 6 times 3 is 18, plus 3 more. So our answer is 216. So in case you've forgotten how to do this, so we did 6 times 6, and we did our 6, and we carried our 3 for 36. Then we do 6 times 3, which is 18. And then we added 3 more, and we got 21. So our answer is 216. And this didn't actually have a unit, so I'm just going to pretend it was centimeters. Centimeters cubed. All right. So we did one like this earlier, so I'm going to leave this one. I'm actually going to rearrange this. So this is called a jam board that I'm using, and actually today what you're going to be doing when we're done with this in a minute is, should be able to move it. Yep. Is you're going to be completing one as practice. So we're going to talk about our shapes of this pyramid, which is a rectangular pyramid. So any kind of pyramid is going to have this top where all of our points are coming together. This is called the vertex. When you have this pyramid piece, then this is going to be a rectangular pyramid. You get rectangle by the shape down here. So it's a rectangular pyramid. A lot of times people want to say like a triangular pyramid, and there are triangular pyramids, but that would be like if I cut it in half like that. So when we find the area of a triangle, remember our area is always going to be 1/2 times our base and our height. But we need to go through the same steps as we did before. The first thing is, how many triangles do we have? How many rectangles do we have? So first, how many triangles do we have? Type that in the chat box, so I know how many triangles I need to draw. So we have 4. And the way it's hard to see on here, but the way I know that is because the base has 4. So there's 4 triangles. Because there's a triangle coming off of this side, a triangle coming off of this side, a triangle coming off of this side, and a triangle coming off of that side. So we have 4 triangles. One, two, 3, 4. So we have our 4 triangles. Again, we cannot assume that all the triangles are the same size. I'm going to go ahead and tell you they're not. They're not all the same size. But we do have 4 triangles. Then how many rectangles do we have? Type in the chat box. 1. And we have our base. That's the bottom. So let's start with our triangles. So we have a base. The base is the bottom. Base is always the bottom. of 8 for this triangle. We're talking about one triangle at a time. We need to do each triangle individually. We can't just do one triangle and then, you know, putting on all the other ones. So we have 8. And our height is 12. So if someone could calculate the area of this triangle, 8 times 12, but don't forget this half, and type it in the chat box. So 8 times 12 is 96, Zoe. So that would be 8 times 12 for the base and the height. But we can't forget about our half. Our half is very important. If you forget about the half, you're going to have it wrong. So what is half of 96? That's right, 48. So that is the area of this triangle. Only this triangle. That's the only one we're talking about right now. So now we're going to go to another triangle. Let's talk about this triangle right here. This triangle has a different base. So we have a base of 7. And the same height of 12. So calculate the area using base times height, but don't forget that half. Tell me what the area of this teal triangle is. So I see 84 as an answer. You forgot the half. So 12 times 7 is 84, but then you can't forget the half because this is not the same as a square or a rectangle. So we can't just do the length times the width or the base times the height. You have to cut it in half because it is half. Because 2 triangles will always make a rectangle. So it is 42. Very good. So then now let's talk about triangle number 3. This one over here. So this triangle right here is directly across from here. You see they're across from each other. So this will also be 8. So we know that it's going to be the same as this 8 and 12. So we can go ahead and write 48. And the same for this triangle here. The 7 is the same. We're doing our last number 4. And that is going to be 42. But you need to make sure you're looking at each triangle by itself. Because as you can see, they're not all 48 and they're not all 42. So if you had just found one triangle and put it in all 4, your answer would be wrong. But try to make sure your microphone is on mute. So if your microphone is on, if you would just hit mute, please. Thank you. I know you can probably hear like my daughter's in her class in the background, so it's hard with the background noise. All right, so and our last is to find the length times the width of our rectangle. So what is 8 times 7? If we type it in the chat box. All right, we got 56. So now we have the area of each of our faces of our shape. Now what we have to do is add them up to find the surface area. Because we need to find what all the area of each shape is all together. So if you all would add that up. So I have 48. I like to cross them out. I know I have this other 48 over here, so I like to group things together. That's just how my brain works. You don't have to do it that way. Then we have a 42 and a 42. And then we have our 56. I'm going to add these up. So, way my brain works, some people can add all this up together. I have trouble keeping all of this in my head. So, I group it. So, 48 plus 48, I know is 8 plus 8 is 16. 4 plus 4 is 8, and that's 9. So I know those two together are 96. Then we have our two 42s. It's going to be 84. And then our 56. You don't have to do it this way. Everyone does math a little bit different in their head. You could just add 8, 8, 2, 2, 6. That's fine. This is just how my brain works. So I know 6 plus 4 is 10, plus 6 more is 16. 9 plus 1 is 10, plus 8 more is 18. Then I do 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So, all of our faces added together gives us a surface area of 236 centimeters cubed. The cube symbol is that 3. When you're doing like an online test, because you can't type that symbol, you could also write it as 236 centimeters cubed, which could be CU. So what I'm going to have everyone do now is you're going to start with number 4. So if you notice on this Jamboard, when I move, I can move my slides around like this. So we have slide 4 through 10. Now I will say this is not a grade. This is practice for you to be ready for our test tomorrow. So give me 1 second. I'm going to switch screens. Because you're probably going, okay, well, how am I supposed to do that? I'm going to show you.